My dear respected brothers and sisters in Islam, Alhamdulillah, it's a great blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He has given me and you the ability and tawfiq to participate in this gathering, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make this gathering a source of guidance for all of us, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make this gathering one of the means of our entry into Jannah, inshallah. Inshallah, the few minutes that I have with all of you today, I want to share with you some reflections, some ayat from surah number 14 of the Quran. This surah is called Surah Ibrahim, and in this surah, among many other surahs of the Quran, we learn something very, very interesting. You know, the nation that Quran offers up the most as a means of example for the Muslims to learn lessons from is the nation of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam and his people. Musa alayhi salatu wasalam and his people, there are over 70 passages in the Quran that are dedicated to Musa alayhi salatu wasalam and the legacy of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam. And this is not just the case after Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam moved to Medina and when he actually had the interactions with the Jewish community. Because this surah is a Makki surah, which means that when this surah was revealed, Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam was in Makkah. And when he was in Makkah, he had no actual interactions with the Jewish community. Because remember, Jews were not in Makkah, they were in Medina. This surah was revealed in Makkah when Prophet ﷺ never had any kind of interactions with the Jewish community. So this shows that even earlier on, Musa ﷺ was being served as an example. His interactions with his people were being served as an example, not only for the Muslims, but also for Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. Now this surah that I'm talking about, Surah Ibrahim, it begins with Kitabun Anzalnahu. This kitab, this Quran, it's a remarkable Quran, it's an amazing kitab, it's an amazing book. Anzalnahu, we have sent it down upon you. There is a reason why we have sent it down upon you. What's the purpose of sending this book down upon you? لِتُخْرِجَ النَّاسَ مِنَ الظُّلُمَاتِ إِلَى النُّورِ, so that you can bring your people out of darkness into light. Your people, your ummah, is struck in many shades of darkness. They are stuck in many shades of darkness. Your job is to take your ummah and bring them out of the darkness into light. That is your job. Now a few ayats later, the ayah that I recited in my Arabic khutbah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and please listen to this carefully. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, وَلَقَدْ آتَيْنَا مُوسَى بِآيَاتِنَا. Indeed, we have given Musa alayhi salatu wasalam our ayat, our miraculous signs. Indeed, we have given Musa alayhi salatu wasalam our ayat, our miraculous signs. Before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, I gave you, meaning Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, I gave you my book. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that I had given Musa alayhi salatu wasalam my ayat, my verses, my miraculous signs. What's the reason behind it? An akhrij qawmaka min az-zulumati ila an-nur. The same exact thing. So that you can use these ayat, you can use these miraculous signs, and you can bring your people out of the darkness into light. Our Prophet ﷺ was told the exact same thing in the beginning of the surah. And then as a case study, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is being told that you're not the only one. We have given the same instructions to Musa alayhi salatu wasalam. So why don't you listen to Musa alayhi salatu wasalam? Why don't you listen to what Musa has to say to his people? Why don't you pay attention to that, and it will teach you something for your own people. Now the thing with Musa alayhi salatu wasalam and the legacy of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam is that it's very diverse in the Quran. You learn many things about the conversations between Musa alayhi salam and Fir'aun. Then you learn many things about the people of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam before they escaped Fir'aun. Then you learn many things about the people of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam after they escaped Fir'aun. Then you learn many things about the people of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam when they were lost in the desert. when they were wandering in the desert. So there are so many epic tales. There are so many adventures, epic adventures. There are so many historical accounts all over the Quran. Which one in particular Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is highlighting here when He talks about bringing your people out of the darkness into light? What particular does He have focus on? Because there are so many things that we learn in the legacy of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam. So what particular does He have focus now? And why I'm highlighting this for ourselves is because I believe every single Muslim who is sitting here, we need to be constantly worried about getting ourselves from darkness into light. We need to be worried about it. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't call it one darkness. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls it shades of darkness. And just like a shade, every shadow can be light and every shadow can be very heavy. And we Muslims, we are not self-righteous people. We should not think that we are the only guided people and we are always in the light. No. We have our own shades of darkness that we are having a problem with, that we need to constantly pull ourselves out of. We have our own shades of darkness. So what is the most common, what is the most dangerous form of darkness that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about in this ayah? What is it being mentioned in this passage? Let's listen to what Musa alayhi salatu wasalam has to say to his people, and then we will understand this most dangerous form of darkness. What is this darkness that Allah is talking about? So Musa alayhi salatu wasalam says to his people, وَإِذْ قَالَ مُوسَى لِقَوْمِهِ يَا قَوْمِ. As I'm translating this ayah, you and I, we should be thinking of all these things that Musa alayhi salatu wasalam is mentioning, and Musa alayhi salatu wasalam is offering, is a way of getting ourselves from darkness into light. So pay attention to this. The first thing Musa alayhi salatu wasalam says to his people, Ya qawm, O my nation, O my people, Uzkuru ni'matallahi alaykum. Make mention of the gifts that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already given you. The favors of Allah. Ni'mah means the favors of Allah. Make mention of the favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah has already bestowed upon you. Now remember that these words were given to Bani Israel, these words were given to the people of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam. I will go into the historical context in a bit later, but these words were given to the people of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam. What we need to understand is that people of Bani Israel, they were not exactly having a very good time. They were not living in Scotland. They were not the people who enjoyed a lot of success, especially during the time of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam. They are not having a very comfortable situation. Either they are stuck in a situation where there is a tyrant ruler and he's doing what? He's slaughtering their babies. He's about to annihilate them. And he's not just slaughtering one baby, he's slaughtering thousands of them. And then they are stuck in a situation where they are in the middle of a desert, where they are about to die or dehydrate. So they are not in a very comfortable situation. Yet the first thing they were being told is what? Is not to do sabr. Is not to have patience. The first thing that were being told to the people of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam is Uzkuru ni'matallahi alaykum. Remember the favors of Allah. Make mention of the favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Instead of focusing all of your energies on what is going wrong in your life, you should focus all of your energies on what is going right in your life. Think about the things that you enjoy in your life. Think about the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now along these lines, I want to share with you something really interesting. When the people of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, when they crossed the water, when Allah saved them from the clutches of Fir'aun, and they crossed the water. When they crossed the water, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provided for them in a situation in which otherwise they deserve death. Nobody can survive in the middle of a desert. Especially if it's a huge population of men, women and children. Especially if there is no shade, there is no water and there is no drink. Nobody can survive. But still Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provided them shade by means of clouds. Do you know that? Right? We already know that. Allah provided them shade by means of cloud. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provided them rain. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provided them food by means of manna and salwa, right? We already know that, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provided them their drinks by 12 springs of water. فَانْفَجَرَتْ مِنْ حُسْنَةَ عَشْرَةَ عَيْنًا. 12 springs of water are coming out for them. So their shade, their water, their food, their drink in an impossible situation has been taken care of, right? But something very interesting happened that is quoted elsewhere in the Quran. So I want to highlight that first, and then I will come back to the darkness that we were talking about, right? So pay attention now. Now these people, the people of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, they start to get tired of the same kind of food. They're getting tired of the same kind of food. So they are sitting around and they are saying, Yaar, what is for lunch? Manna and salwa. What is for dinner? Manna and salwa. So they are bored now. Now there is not much variety in their food. So you can imagine a couple of them sitting around and saying, man, do you remember that restaurant back in the day? You know, when we were in Egypt, that place, it was such an amazing place. And they are making mention of some vegetables because they are bored. So they are mentioning the names of some vegetable. So some of them, they went up to Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, and Quran recorded this in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala recorded this in the Quran. Some of them, they went up to Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, and they said to Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, Ud'u lana rabbaka yukhrij lana mimma tunbitu al-ard min baqliha wa qissaiha wa fumiha wa adasiha wa basaliha. Why don't you make dua to your Rabb? Why don't you make dua to your master, to your Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so that he can bring out onions, garlic, and can we have some French fries as well? So now there is a whole menu of food. They are offering a whole menu of food. Some vegetables. So now the question arises, when did they learn the name of all of these vegetables? It's not like they learned the name of all of these vegetables when they were in a desert. Because in a desert there is no cultivation, there is no vegetables. They must have learned the names of all of these vegetables where? When they were in Egypt, under the clutches of Fir'aun, when he was slaughtering their babies, when they were in a miserable conditions. That's the time when they learned the name of all of these vegetables, right? Now ask yourself these questions. If someone comes out of a prison and he says, man, I really miss the food that they used to serve me in the prison. When I was trying my time and they used to serve me that food, I really love that food. If you miss the food from prison, then what does it mean? It means you are missing a prison itself. You are not appreciating the taste of freedom, right? So now you can focus on what you don't have in your food items, or you can focus on the things that alhamdulillah now you have, which is the taste of freedom. But you know, these people, they are still complaining. They are still whinging. So Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, he's deeply upset and he's really hurt. So he says to his people, أَتَسْتَبْدِلُونَ الَّذِي هُوَ أَدْنَى بِالَّذِي هُوَ خَيْرٌ? Do you want to replace something that is so inferior with that which is better? And by the way, he's not only talking about food. He's not talking about replacing manna and salwa with the vegetables. He's also talking about their freedom. What he is telling them is that you need to learn to focus on the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you enjoy in the middle of all of your trouble. Now, mashallah, all of you brothers, you are sitting here and you are more intelligent than I am. So let me ask you this question. What is the most easy, what is the most common conversations that Muslims find themselves today among each other? What is the thing that we love to talk about most? Our problems. Oh man, youth has got so many problems. Our kid has got so many problems. Think about the politics. Palestine, Syria, Kashmir. This guy has got so many problems. Our masjid has got so many problems. Our caretaker has so many problems. This organization has so many problems. This committee has so many problems. You know, our Muslim community, it's full of problems. We love to talk about problems. We love to talk about problems. You know why? Because it's very entertaining. It's very, very entertaining that we talk about problems all the time. You know, some of us, we are raised in a household where our father will have his friends come over baklava or chai And then we all will sit down together, and what will we do? We'll talk about world problems. That's what we do. World problems. That's all what we do. It's a part of our culture now. It's a part of our life. This is wrong with this, and this is wrong with that, and this one is corrupt, and that one is corrupt. That's all what we do. That's all. Okay, see you next weekend, and then we'll talk about the world problems again. How ridiculous is this? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling the people of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, the first thing you need to focus is on the favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَاذْكُرُوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ. And if you cannot remember any favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then let me remind you, إِذْ أَنْجَاكُمْ مِنْ آلِ فِرْعَوْنَ. He rescued you. Allah rescued you from the clutches of Fir'aun once and for all. يَسُومُونَكُمْ سُوءَ الْعَذَابِ. He was humiliating you with the worst form of punishment. يُذَبِّحُونَ أَبْنَاءَكُمْ. He was slaughtering your children. He was killing your babies. وَيَسْتَحْيُونَ نِسَاءَكُمْ. He was keeping your women alive so that he can ridicule them for the purpose of more degradation, for the purpose of more humiliation. وَفِي ذَلِكُمْ بَلَاءٌ مِّن رَبِّكُمْ عَظِيمٌ. And in all of this you had a great trial. You had a great trial. You were in great difficulty as a result. Now obviously this conversation is happening when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already freed all of them. They are already freed from Fir'aun and from the clutches of Fir'aun, but now they are in the middle of a desert. And they are in another difficult life. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling them, and the Rasul of Allah and the Messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling them, your major darkness is, your first darkness is that you're not grateful enough. You don't show gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're always focusing on negative things. You're always thinking about your problem. You never think about the things that are going good in your life. You never think about the good things of your life. Always focusing on negative things. This is what you're doing. This is your darkness. I know before I move on, I want to draw your attention towards our family situations in our household. How many mother-in-laws are always complaining? How many wives are always complaining? How many husbands are always complaining? How many children are always complaining? How many parents are always complaining? Get me this, get me that. I never get to do this, I never get to do that. Why did you move here? Why couldn't you move there? Why did you take that job? Why couldn't you move out here? Why? Constantly complaining against each other. This is our life now. This has become our life and we enjoy that. People go back to their homes and then they are constantly complaining against their wives. The wives are constantly complaining against their husbands. In-laws are constantly complaining against each other, and that's all it is. That's all it is. That's all what our lives has turned into our homes. And that's why some of us, we want to spend more time in the masjid now instead of going back home, because we can't deal with the situation at home, which is, by the way, is a blessing in disguise if you want to spend more time in the masjid. But we don't want to go back home because we can't deal with the situation. We don't. And subhanallah, this is a lesson for all of us, not only in the religious setting. Not only, if you just think about that, only think about that. You know, if you cannot focus on the positive things that are happening in your life, if you cannot do that, then what will happen to you? And wallahi, it's not a religious advice. Don't think this is a Sheikh Saab sitting on the mimbar, so he's giving us religious advice. It's not a religious advice. If you cannot focus on the positive things that are happening in your life, then what will happen? What will happen? If you are only thinking about the bad things or what is going wrong in your life, then you will lead a miserable life. You will lead a depressed life. Nothing will make you happy. Nothing. Because you are too overwhelmed by the things that are already happened. You are so depressed. You are so depressed. I know if you only think about it, literally if you only think about it, the people of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam and what they went through was not easy. It was not easy. If you hear a news of a child being killed in a car accident, even by mistake, it's still disturbing. It's still disturbing. What about a guy who's killing your children by the thousands? He's slaughtering your children on purpose. don't you think this should be a trauma for that nation? Don't you think this should be a trauma for the nation that is not easy for them to overcome? Even after they escaped from the clutches of Fir'aun, this trauma should not go away. But still Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling them, Uskuru ni'matallahi alaykum. Even still you need to focus on positive things. Even still you need to focus on the fact that this is done with. It's already done. You have been saved from Fir'aun, from the clutches of Fir'aun. Now become grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is changing their mindset. And through them, Allah is changing our mindset. We are not supposed to be people of complaining. You know, a lot of times, brother comes to me and they say to me, Mulana, how can we learn to become patient? We have a really bad temper. We get very angry. We get very upset. You know, what should we do? We can't help it. Yes, you can. Learn to become grateful to Allah. Learn to become grateful to Allah. This is the teaching of the Quran. If you really want to fight your impatience, become grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because if you are constantly thinking about the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already given you, then your mind will not have enough energy to think about the things that you don't have. And my brothers and sisters in Islam, remember one thing very, very clearly. I need to remind myself all the time, and you need to remind yourself all the time. What we want is our desire. And what we already have is what Allah desires for us. I will repeat myself again. What we want is our desire. I want a car, I want a job, I want a house, I want a mobile phone, I want my son to do this, I want my daughter to do this, I want you to do this. All of this is my desire, is our desire. But what I already have is the desire of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is what Allah desires for me. So don't compare your desires with the desire of Allah. You are becoming ungrateful to Allah when you compare your desires with the desires of Allah. Learn to become grateful on what you already have. It doesn't mean that you should not strive for better and better. You should. You should strive for better and better, but you should strive with gratitude and with patience. And wallahi, if you really want to improve things in your life, then there is a solution in the next ayah. Brother, I can't see my family situation improving. I can't see my wages increasing. I can't see my problems disappearing. I can't see my debt going away. What should I do? What's the solution? Here's the solution. Allah is giving you a solution. La in shakartum la azidannakum. Become grateful to me and I will increase you. I will give it to you. Just become grateful to me. Where do you think your money is coming from? Where do you think the solution of your problem is coming from? Where do you think it's coming from? It's coming from Allah. So Allah is saying that I have kept it locked for all of you till you become grateful to me. As soon as you become grateful to me, I will unlock it for you. I will give it to you. So what are you waiting for? Learn to become grateful. And all of your problems will go away. But then he adds one very important thing. And this is what I will conclude with. He adds a very, very important thing. And please listen to this carefully. He says, وَلَا إِن كَفَرْتُمْ. If you choose to become ungrateful, if you choose to remain in denial, that these are all the gifts of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to me, or these are all the gifts from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to me, you are in denial, and you are only thinking about your problems, and you are only whinging and complaining, all the time to yourself and to the other people. If this is the kind of life you want to live, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Inna azabi la shadid, my punishment is very intense. You know what is so remarkable about this ayah? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never says that if you become ungrateful to me, then I will punish you. Allah never says this. Allah never even mentioned you. Allah never even mentioned me. Allah says my punishment is very severe. Remember, when someone shows gratitude to Allah, Allah says, La azidannakum, I will increase you. Allah is mentioning you. Allah is honoring you by mentioning you. But when you become ungrateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you don't even deserve to be mentioned by Allah. Allah doesn't even mention you after that point. Allah just says, my punishment is so severe. You don't mention me, why should I mention you? You're not even worthy of mention. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying. And don't you think for a second, I know there are youngsters sitting here, so maybe this question comes in their mind, maybe Allah wants us to become grateful to Him. Maybe Allah needs us to praise Him. Don't you even think it for a second. Even for a second only. And you know, I see that this was the attitude of the people of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam that we have today in ourselves, in the Muslims. The people of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, they used to have this kind of attitude. That, you know, we are special people. Allah would not do that to us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought us all the way out of the water. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved all of us from Fir'aun, from the clutches of Fir'aun. Now you think Allah is going to punish us? Do you think Allah is going to punish us now? After all that He has done for us and He has saved us and He has brought us all out of the water, now He's going to punish us? No. We are special. We are the ummah of Musa. Sounds familiar? We are the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He is going to intercede for us on the day of judgment. We are not going to be punished. We are special people. Listen to the next ayah. Don't you ever think that Allah needs us to become grateful to Him? Allah needs our praises. Listen to the next ayah. Musa alayhi salatu wasalam says to his people, In takfuru antum wa man fil ardi jami'an. If you become ungrateful to Allah, and every single person on this earth become ungrateful to Allah, فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَغَنِيٌّ. Allah doesn't need you. Allah is free of all need. Don't you think you are special? Allah is ghani. Allah doesn't need your praise. Hamid. فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَغَنِيٌّ Hamid. Allah is Hamid. You know what Hamid means? You know what Hamid means? There is another word which is Mahmud in Arabic language, which means someone is praised. But the word suggests that there is someone who is praising you. But he is not mentioned, but there is someone who is praising you. You are being praised. This is what we call Mahmud. You know what Hamid means? Someone who is self-praised. Someone who is praised in and of himself. Let me give you another example. You know a big brand name? A really big brand name? You don't need to praise it. You don't. When you wear it, you're not praising it. You're complimenting your own self. That brand is praising you. That brand is already praised in and of itself. It doesn't need your praise. You need to wear it so that people can compliment you. Allah says, I'm Hamid. I'm self-praised. I don't need your praise. I'm telling you to become grateful to me so that you don't lead a miserable life. So that you don't live a depressed life. Because if you're only focusing on negative things, you will never become happy. I'm telling you this for your own sake, for your own benefit. Don't you ever think that you are praying for me. I need your prayers. You pray 5 times a day for me. No, you pray it for your own self, for your own benefit. You are increasing for yourself. You're not increasing anything for me. That's what Allah is telling us here. فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ غَنِيٌّ حَمِيدٌ. I don't need you and I'm already self-praised. This is the lesson Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching us in the Quran. Musa alayhi salatu wasalam was taught this lesson so that he can teach his people how to come out from darkness into light. And this message is so important that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put it as a teaching in the Quran for Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. This is a teaching methodology for Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. First he was told that you need to bring your people out of darkness. But then he was told this is what Musa alayhi salatu wasalam did to his people. He reminded his people in this way, you remind your people in this way. Become grateful to Allah and you will come out of your darknesses. Become grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring all of us out from the very darknesses that we have in our life. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us grateful people. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us among those who show gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us among those who focus their energies on the positive things that are going on in their life. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us understanding. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep us united in this dunya. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reunite us in the hereafter. Wa akhir da'wana alhamdulillah rabbil alamin.